So quick one before we start. If you're cutting and you're training hard and you want to make sure that your nutrition actually supports your goals instead of wrecking your gains, I made you something. It's a free total daily energy expenditure macronutrient calculator, and it's also going to help you figure out how much hydration, how much water you should be drinking in a day. It accounts for your training, your body composition goals, and is not just a random number off the internet. The link for that is in the description below. Let's go. So here is how you train while you're in a calorie deficit without wrecking all the gains you made over the last few weeks or months that you've been building up some muscle. We're going to break this down section by section. So section 1 is how to reprioritize your training so that you're not prioritizing training for fat loss, because that's not the importance of training during this period of time. I know burning more calories is going to be burning more fat, right? Kind of, but that's not exactly the point, especially when you're already in a calorie deficit. Your diet is what drives your fat loss. Training is what tells your body what to keep during the time that you're trying to lose weight. And what do we want to keep? That's right. We want to keep our muscle, we want to keep our strength, our function, and most importantly, our confidence. If you're just doing cardio and skipping your resistance training or turning your workouts into punishment for what you ate, you're setting yourself up to lose muscle, and you're probably going to be feeling like garbage by the end of all of your workouts and the time in between your workouts too. One thing we have to keep in mind is that muscle is very expensive for your body to keep. It takes a lot of calories just to maintain it. So when you're in a deficit and you're not lifting, your body has an internal dialogue of, cool, you don't need this tissue anymore, right? Let's burn it for fuel. So what keeps that tissue around? Heavy resistance training and compound movements. They create mechanical tension that ends up translating into a signal that tells your body that this tissue is necessary and that we cannot get rid of it. So no, you're not just training to burn calories. You're training to protect your muscle during a cutting phase when you're trying to reduce the amount of body fat that you have. So no, we're not training to burn calories. We're training to protect our muscle. Here's a mini implementation tip for you. If your workouts are making you sore for days or are completely crushing your soul, you might be doing a bit too much. What we want to focus on is chasing stimulus and not soreness. You want to hit the muscle group that you're training, recover, and repeat. Section 2, finding a deficit that doesn't suck the life out of you. Here's where most people go wrong. They cut 1,000 calories each day, they train 6 days a week, and then they wonder why they're feeling exhausted, angry, and not losing any fat. You don't need to starve yourself here. We're looking to fuel ourselves so we can have hard training sessions. You're going to need a strategic deficit, one that is big enough to lose fat, but also small enough to keep your hormones, your mood, and your training on point. The sweet spot for this is in and around 0.5% to 1% of your body weight each week. That's what's going to make it sustainable in terms of the rate of loss that you're seeing. That's it. It's not flashy, but it preserves your muscles, supports your recovery, and also keeps you sane during the process. The deeper the deficit, the higher the cost, and it's not just costing you energy. When you have such a big deficit with so much more activity, we're going to be seeing symptoms like slower thyroid output, your testosterone, your estrogen is going to tank, your cortisol is going to go through the roof, your cravings are going to be terrible, and your brain fog is going to increase, and your libido is going to go out the window. These are actually survival responses. They're not personal failures. So if you experience these, you might just need to increase your caloric intake a little bit during the process. Here is a mini implementation tip for section 2. If your weight is not trending downwards, don't panic. You want to track your weekly average, not your daily fluctuations. The scale will go up and down, but the trends don't lie. If you feel weak, sore, moody, or tired all the time, that's data too. It's not failure. Adjust your deficit and don't just push blindly forward with that. Use that information your body's giving you. Section number 3, prioritize your resistance training. Period. Lifting is non-negotiable during a cutting phase. It's kind of like your insurance policy against turning you into a smaller, weaker version of yourself. You want to be stronger, retain your muscle, and have a physique that actually looks like you lift. You don't just want to look like a smaller version of where you were prior to this phase. So your program should hit each muscle group at least twice a week, at minimum. You're going to want to stick to movements like your squats, your deadlifts, your presses, and your pulls. These movements are going to provide the most bang for your buck when energy is limited. You only have so much energy while you're in a calorie deficit, so we have to get the most out of our workouts. These compound lifts are going to hit multiple muscle groups at once. They're going to create the most mechanical tension, and they're going to help drive hormonal responses that protect your muscle mass, even while you're in a deficit. And look, you don't need to lift every day. 2 to 3 really intentional sessions are going to be way more valuable than 6 aimless ones where you feel like you can't even push hard during your workouts. You're going to want to also track your lifts using an RPE scale. So that's a scale on 1 to 10. This weight on this lift felt like a 6 this week in terms of effort. But if the following week it feels like an 8 or a 9, then maybe you were not fueled properly for that particular session, or the deficit that you're in is too large for you to be able to push just as hard as the previous week. You're going to want to progress when you can using principles like progressive overload, either increasing your weight by 5 to 10 pounds on a particular lift every week or adding 1 or 2 repetitions. And when you cannot push forward, you at the very least want to maintain from the previous week as well. So here's a quick science drop for you. Mechanical Mechanical tension is going to be the primary driver of muscle growth, and muscle damage and metabolic stress are going to be secondary. So don't chase the burn. Chase higher loading, lifting heavier, and quality repetitions. Section 4, don't skip your cardio, but let's do it right. So no, I am not going to tell you to go and start doing hill sprints until your hamstrings start to cramp. But some aerobic work, that's actually a pretty smart move. Here's why. It's going to help to regulate your appetite, boost your recovery, improve your fat oxidation, and increase your mitochondrial density. Your mitochondrial density is going to improve the amount of energy production that your body can make. These are the powerhouses of the cell. If you're like me and you grew up in Canadian schools where you figure out that, yeah, your mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So here's the key. Your lifts are going to be intense, but your aerobic work is going to be moderate to low when it comes to intensity. Zone 2 is going to be your sweet spot. That means you're going to aim for 60 to 70% of your heart rate max. For most people, that ends up being between 120 to 135 beats per minute. It's going to be a pace where you can move, but you're still able to talk or keep a conversation with someone if you're on the phone or had someone beside you. Another way to help you regulate this is if you're performing an aerobic activity, you should be able to still only breathe through your nose and feel like it's kind of challenging for you to be able to do that. If you have to start mouth breathing, then you might be moving at an intensity or a pace that is just a little bit too high. You will want to do that type of activity 2 to 4 times a week, anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. You want to think things like incline walks, cycling, light jogs, yoga. I don't know why I said yoga. I wouldn't do yoga for that. Whatever you can tolerate and enjoy for that 20 to 40 minutes. But here's a trap that you're looking to avoid. You're not going to want to stack high intensity cardio in your program while you're in this deficit. Here's why. You'll end up spiking your cortisol, tanking your recovery, and absolutely frying your central nervous system. Sure, you'll feel busy and like you're doing something, but your results are going to be way worse. Section number 5, you're going to want to watch out for low energy availability. So here's something that kind of gets swept under the rug. There is this acronym called RED-S. It's another acronym that the fitness industry didn't need, but it stands for Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport. Basically, when you're training too hard and eating too little, not recovering enough, your entire system starts to downregulate. Your body is way smarter than you think, and you just pulling a bunch of energy back just means that it's going to put less energy out for you to do things. Your speech will start to slow down, you start blinking slower, you'll notice that you start to sit down a lot more, and you probably won't be able to walk as fast, or your body will just start to auto-regulate in a way that will allow it to perform based on the amount of energy you put in. You'll notice this through symptoms like poor sleep, weak lifts, mood swings, constant illness, and like I said earlier, when it comes to your libido, you're going to have zero sex drive. Your body's internal dialogue essentially goes to, we don't have enough fuel for all this, we're shutting that shit down. This affects both men, women, entrepreneurs, and the weekend warriors. Nobody's safe. You cannot out-discipline your biology. So here's a mini tip for you. If you're training more than 4 hours a week, you're going to want to make sure that you're fueling at the very least what your basal metabolic rate is plus your training output. Again, if you use my calculator that I mentioned earlier in the description below, you'll be able to figure out what that is. If you're constantly dragging and don't feel like you can push hard enough, either pull back when it comes to the intensity of your lifts or have a day to refeed. Have a couple hundred extra calories and give yourself an opportunity to refuel. Recovery is a signal. Be sure to honor that. Section 6, eat like a professional, not a prisoner. Let's talk macros. You know the trifecta: protein, carbs, and fats. Your protein is like your lifeline when you're in a deficit. You want to aim for at least 1 gram per pound of body weight that you have. This is the easiest target. Everybody knows this. I'm not the first person to tell you. Protein helps you preserve your muscle, stay full, support your immune function, and recover. Your carbohydrates, don't fear them. They actually help you spare your protein. They fuel your lifts and they stop you from having your thyroid crash out. If you time your carbohydrates around your workouts, it's going to actually boost your performance and improve your recovery. Your fat intake. You're going to want to keep at least 20% of your total calories coming from your fat intake. Fats are critical when it comes to hormone production and your joint health too. So how do we build a meal? First, start with your protein. As I said earlier, your protein is going to be the most important one out of all of these. Also, make sure to add fiber-rich carbs. So we're thinking veggies, fruit, rice, oats, things of that nature. Include a healthy source of fats. We're looking at avocados, olive oil, nuts, and be sure to space out your meals throughout the day so this way they can stabilize your blood sugar and minimize your cravings. Be strategic about the way you're eating and also when you're choosing to eat. Section number 7, recovery is also a part of training too. This is actually the part that everybody skips though. Recovery isn't just a nice to have, it's the competitive edge in a deficit. It's the biggest leverage point for you to actually see your gain. Your gains don't actually happen in the gym, they happen when you recover. And because your calories are lower, you're actually walking a pretty fine line. The only way to adapt and grow and get stronger is through your recovery. The better that you recover, the better the gains are. The better you recover, the less likelihood you are to feel cravings. The less likely you are to feel cravings, the more likely you are to make better nutritional decisions. So what does that look like? That means 7 to 9 hours of sleep, movement outside of the gym. So things like walks, mobility, making sure you're getting lots of good sunlight, managing your stress, programming smarter, making sure that you're periodizing your training, doing things like deloads and auto-regulating, and using, like I mentioned earlier, the RPE scale to make sure that you're not just burning and crashing out. You can think of it like this. You train to create the signal, you eat to support it, and you recover to respond to it. No recovery equals no results. One last thing to wrap this all up. This isn't about suffering. This is about strategy. You can train in a deficit and get stronger. You can get lean without losing your mind. And you can do this without sacrificing your health or your hormones. Just don't wing it. Instead, train with purpose, cut your calories strategically, eat to fuel, not to restrict, and recover like your results depend on it, because they do. If you want help figuring out where your numbers should be, again, the link is in the description for my total daily energy expenditure macronutrient calculator. Go down there, click, check it out. Let me know what you think about it. And if this helped, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, drop a like, hit subscribe, stay smart, stay strong. Don't lose your muscle just to lose weight. Make sure you get your reps in. I'll see you in the next one.